Okay. Um, if you can hear me, I just want you to type in the chat that you can hear me. If you can hear me, just write it in the comments that you can hear me. Okay. While I wait for a couple of other people to join. Okay. If you can hear me, just type it on the chat that you can hear me. Okay. Um, yeah, and let's give about 2 more minutes for others to join. Guess. Okay. Okay, great. Um, I don't intend for this session to take too long since it's going to be the last class, right? And my plan is to ensure that I answer questions you probably have and maybe also clarify some of the reviews I gave concerning the assignment, right? So, and I also want to share my screen and talk about some other things, right, that the class did not cover, especially on topics like accessibility and I'm not sure if the last tutor talked about SEO, right? So and maybe I also want to talk briefly about how you can sort of land writing gigs and especially if you're a developer, right? How to um, write helpful error messages. Okay. Um, yeah. Just before I start, if you know you have questions, maybe concerning a feedback I gave or concerning any of the topics that I treated and you don't understand, you just ask them in the chat. I would answer them here live, right? That's also why this session is here so that I get to answer your questions live. Okay, and while waiting for the questions, I would also like to talk about accessibility and what it means for you to be to write an accessible article or accessible blog post or even content. Yeah. Okay. So let me share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So this is not going to be a like very long stuff, right? Because I don't plan to go detail into every single component. You can always go through the course material later. But I want to pick out one or two other things, right? And something that especially that I noticed was in writing captions. right? What is the meaning of a caption, and why do you need to write a caption? Okay. Now, a caption is supposed to explain. It's for people that maybe, for example, they cannot read, they can't see, right? And then they have to listen to something like a voice reader read through your blog post. So, for example, now, why the voice reader is moving through each sentence, when it gets to an image, it skips it because an image is not a sentence. Now, you don't want your reader to miss out on what message you're trying to post or put in that image. And that's why you write a caption, or what is called an alt text. Okay. So, when the voice reader sees that alt text, it reads it out, and the person who can't see, he can't see, but then here's what they say, okay, this is what this person can describe. Now, there are cases where an image only emphasizes the text you already have. So, for example, you've already written a text, and this image is just sort of explaining that text. You might not need to write an alt text in that case because it's just like duplication. Okay. So, but then it's always helpful to write alt text, not for you, right? And not only in post, even when you maybe are posting an image on social media or posting an image anywhere, really, it's always very helpful to for alt text, not because of you, but because of accessibility, or people with disability, so they also not miss out on whatever content you're posting. Okay. I thought that was like pretty important. Um and when writing your alt text, it should not be too concise and it should not be too wordy. It should be just perfect, right? We don't want too much details. We just want it to go straight to the point. So, for example, if you're looking at this picture is talking about waffles. Yes, we know it's waffles. But then you want to be a bit descriptive. You can say, okay, this is a stack of waffles with strawberries. Simple, right? On a plate. You don't want to count how many strawberries are there, how many waffles are there, what is the shape of the plate, all that are sort of unnecessary, and just make it too wordy. Okay. So that's something you have to reconcile. Something else that I also want to mention is in contrast. Okay. I noticed that, yeah. Okay, I think it was a slide that I was reading, right? If you look at these three images, each of them have like different ways in which we sort of receive it. For people that are sort of color blind, right, it's just all different. So what you want to have a very neutral contrast, right? You don't want you should not have a dark colored text upon a dark colored background. They must be white, just like white on black. That contrast is good, right? Don't want to have yellow on red. They are two bright colors. Okay, that is also very, very important. You can also use a contrast checker to make sure that you meet that requirement. Because even for someone who is not colorblind, it can make it very difficult to read the text. Okay. So, and what else I would like to add is using inclusive language when you're writing, right? Make sure that your language does not sort of categorize people. Well, you, um, for example, yeah, you're saying, okay, they're saying avoid describing people without disabilities as normal or healthy. Yeah, it's better to say a not disabled person, somebody without disabilities. Okay. Now, or if you want to describe disabled people, you don't say these are disabled. You say people with disabilities. It's still, yes, they are people. First of all, they just have what's called disabilities, right? Yeah, this looks like very on the surface, but I tell you, you can actually get into like a lot of mess if you do not choose your words wisely. Okay, so you have to make sure that you're not discriminating towards any category or gender or disability group or whatever. Okay, so I guess that's really explanatory. So I'm also going to be looking in the chat if anybody has questions. Okay, someone was saying I wanted to ask if there is let me see. Yeah. Okay, someone is asking that I wanted to ask if there is a better way for me to have incorporated data analysis process, or do I need it to be included at all? Okay, I remember your article. Now remember that in the, I think it was the second or third video. No, I think it was the second video where I, yeah, it was second video where I talked about writing headers and having like sort of choosing headers that fits into the context of what you're talking about. The goal of the article, yeah, was to talk about tools used in data analysis. That was exactly what's supposed to be. So if it's not about the tools, then it is out of place. Okay. So now you now talking about the data analysis process doesn't exactly fit or align with your main goal of just talking about the tools. Yeah. The example I used was when you were talking about I think it was web development, how to build a web development project, and then you're saying the history of web development. Yeah, it the goal of that article is to teach me as a reader how to build a website. Yeah, not necessarily tell me about how the history of web development came into. If I want to read all the years and all that kind of stuff, you probably just link it somewhere. I can always go and read that on Wikimedia or somewhere. That is not the goal, right? So it just sort of pieces the reader out when you're talking about something, but you're giving a very wide um divergence, and just makes your article to sort of lose the essence. Yeah, so that's why you should make sure that you have you don't have like different concepts in the same article. If you want to write about data analysis process, that's like a whole topic on its own, and I don't think that paragraph you gave is enough to describe the whole data analysis process. I mean, from the art of gathering data down to analyzing, understanding, visualizing, even reporting. Yeah, so data analysis process is like another concept on its own that you probably don't want to merge with it. So I hope I've explained or clarified your question. Okay, someone is also talking about, can you briefly talk about how to write an API documentation? Okay, so I knew I did mention this, perhaps briefly during the second session, but then how to write the API documentation. First of all, like you can't write an API documentation if you probably don't have like an API to write about. First of all, and this can come in many cases. Probably you're working on an open source project, or you're in a company as a technical writer and all the kind of stuff. So first of all, you have to be technical. So it's not for copywriters or for content writers, right? You have to have the technical know-how. You have to understand um what is being required of you. Now, writing an API documentation is not all that different from writing a blog. The only difference is that you're writing a specific format, right? And you're writing about a tool end to end. You're not just writing maybe one section how to build something. It's beyond building. You're writing like a detailed documentation about what parameters are in this tool, what kind of errors you might encounter, and all those kind of things. So that's why it's like really really important for you to um have like a very good understanding of, first of all, what the tool is about, or what the product is about, or any of other kind of things. So if, for example, let me take the case of your, maybe you got in for GSOC, that's Google Summer of Code, and your task is probably to help with API documentation. Of course, there are guidelines, so it's not like you're just going to be starting from scratch and formulating everything in your head. No, every product organization has like their own sort of guidelines, and if perhaps maybe a startup somewhere, yeah, and they're just doing things from scratch, there are always like guidelines you can always import, right, and use that as a guide. So the difference here is that, just like I said, you need to have like a solid understanding of what the whole project is about, and you also need to work with the engineers themselves. Yeah, so you're not just sitting in a corner there and just writing things. You need to work hand in hand with the engineers. In fact, you might even have a whole team, right, that you're working with, as long as this person is also working on that too, to make sure that you're literally putting what it is in it. Yeah, because you may not actually have to like test every single part of the code, right, to write about it. I mentioned that if you're going to put out code, the code has to work, right? Now when you're writing documentation, it may not be you that test everything, but then that's why I say it's really important to you're working with the engineers to make sure that you capture every other thing. And again, you can also like look at various API documentations. If you're looking at Python, for example, Python has, oh my god, this documentation is so wide, right? Probably that's not a like if first place to go to. You can look at Fast API, for example. Fast API also has like its own documentation, and you can see that it is different from a blog. Yeah, the tone of writing, the things they include. It's not just about building a project. Yeah, it's about this tool. How does the tool work, right? What are the functions in this tool? Explain those parameters and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it shouldn't be super hard for you to get started with, especially if you're familiar with reading documentations. But then you should know that you're definitely going to work with engineers on this, so it's not like a solo project. Okay. Recommend resources on how to write API documentations. First of all, do you should actually be familiar with API documentation. For example, now you want to build something, you know where to go to, you know how to go to it. Yeah. So that's what I would say. So there are so many like API documentations you can go through to get yourself familiar with the whole process before you like start your own before you like start a project. Again, except you're writing an API for your own project, API documentation for your own project. Yeah, that's the only time that you might not have guidelines. But companies, organizations usually have guidelines on maybe how to style their code, how they highlight, how they do all these other kind of things. Yeah. Okay. Um, Someone is asking, can you talk about being a front end developer as a technical writer and how to position for jobs? Hmm. Front end dev, technical writer. Well, good thing that you're first of all a developer. That gives you a greater edge from someone who just coming from content because you're familiar with the tool, you know what front end is about. The only thing you want to do now is that you're looking to just write about it. Yeah. And now, unlike popular opinion, writing is not as easy. I mean, your first article can be like just wrote it. Yeah, but then when you actually become really good, you realize that writing good content, it doesn't just fall from heaven. Yeah, it takes revisions and revisions and making sure you actually understand what you're putting in there, having like one or two people review, supervise, correct SEO, and do all those other kind of things. So what I would say is that first of all, you have the first hurdle off for you already, and the second hurdle is also off for you, which is that you already know what technical writing is about, and what are the things you need to get yourself familiar with. The next thing for you to do is to actually write. Yeah, so when you write really good articles, people would reach out to you. I tell you, this was literally like my own journey and how I actually became a technical writer. I just started writing like on my own, writing about the project I do, and companies reached out to me, hey, we'd like you to write for us. And that's how I got my technical writing gigs. And I started writing for more companies. I applied, yeah, and I know. So there is this GitHub repo that has like a list of companies that are looking for technical writers. Yeah. So I would look for it and I'm going to share it Fisayo so that she'll share with you. And you can just go through the list. So different companies have like different things they look for. Maybe they're looking for someone with front end experience or with back end or cyber security or blockchain and any other kind of stuff. So just like I said before, if you want to get started, how to get position, you need to actually write. And it's when people see your writing that your writing is really good, that's when like, okay, can we bring this person on or not? So even if you're going to apply for a technical writing gig, you need to show samples of your previously written articles. Yeah. And that's why it's good to write on your own. Ensure that you actually know like how to write well. Like it really sets you apart if like on the start you know how to write really well, your method of communication is excellent, and yeah. So you should probably again, maybe you want to revise the classes again, go through the document I sent, the technical writing Google course, go through it in depth, practice the examples because you want to stand out. Yeah. So yeah. Um I hope I've answered the question. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. Okay, I see that the previous tutor did not talk about SEO. I'm sad. I did not prepare to take an SEO class today. Mm. But what I would say is that because now organizations have choice, right? You can either have AI AI write articles for you. So it's not a new thing, right? And I know that you of course AI is there, the article. But first of all, that does not build you technical writer if AI does the job for you. And I know people keep saying it's not people that use AI would displace people that don't use AI. Yeah, to displace are people that know the concept well, and when they combine AI with that it makes them really excellent. So that is also something you probably must look at to develop your own personal writing skill right on your own because it just makes it really good. And what you can use AI for is to correct your errors. I recommend Grammarly. Yeah, so Grammarly can help correct your errors, paraphrasing and all this kind of stuff, plagiarism and all. I know I didn't really touch too much on that because I feel like it's something that you probably heard of before and it's something that is really important. So you want to make sure that your your article, your blog has very little or no plagiarism. I always aim for no plagiarism, always. So you can be like me. Okay. Um okay, someone wants me to talk about open source. Okay. Do you mean open source in technical writing or open source generally? And I'm not sure I get what exactly you're trying to say. Okay, but if you mean open source in technical writing, I think technical writing itself, especially it's is a medium of like okay, open source in technical writing. Technical writing is like it's a medium with which you share knowledge for free, except for paid articles. Mm. So, writing on your own, writing on Medium, writing on publicly accessible platforms is a way of open source. Contributing to open API documentations is also like open source. That's if it's open source projects, of course. Yeah. So, um, yeah, those are like two ways you can get started as with technical writing open source. So you either contribute through writing blogs, helping them better understand um helping them better understand what it's about and that kind of stuff. And also in API documentation, right? Although some companies might have like more um maybe more sinister use cases, especially when they're looking at product integration. So, for example, if they want to talk about how you can use this our tool with maybe AWS Redshift, how to sort of make all those integrations. Yeah, so you can also do that. And again, you don't have to necessarily be part of like an open source project before you do open source writing. You can always write on your own, make it available, share with people, and make sure that what you're giving out real content. You're not just deduplicating what already exists. I'm not saying you cannot write on what exists. Please, your perspective is always better to somebody else. So Yeah, you can definitely write on something that exists, but make sure that you're adding like more source and it's really more interesting. Okay. I think that's what I can say on open source and technical writing. So about SEO, well, I'm not an SEO expert and I certainly did not prepare to talk about SEO, right? And it's probably one of the gradually um facing out tools, because nowadays it's not only SEO that brings you at the top of the page again, right? You have all these AI algorithms and all those other things. But what the okay, just the little I would say is that there is you're supposed to strike a balance between having a catchy title, right, versus actually not misleading people. Because when people talk about SEO, there is always this sinister motive of your goal is just to bring people to your page. You not necessarily have anything to offer them, right? Or you're trying to like deceive them or things like that. So there is like a boundary between trying to bring people to your page to read your articles versus actually deceiving people, saying what is not what it is. Yeah. And a very good example is news, where where people just give you this catchy title and then you've clicked. You in fact you don't know when you reach the end of the page. You're trying to look for that exact thing that was mentioned, but you never find it. So what I would also say is that crafting an SEO worthy title, yeah, you you're looking at things people might actually search for. So for example, if you want to write an article on maybe web integration, in maybe like using a webhook or something like that, yeah, you want to think, okay, if I was a programmer or if I was looking for an article, what are the things I'm going to type in Google? Yeah. And now, in fact, what makes it even easy is that there are tools that can help you do this thing. You could just write the topic that you want to SEO optimize, and then it gives you like a list of suggestions of like better SEO titles. Now, SEO is beyond just the title. It is even in the text itself. Yeah. There's sometimes that you just search on Google and it brings out a paragraph that literally answers what you're looking for. That is also part of SEO. So even in the paragraph, in your sentences, the kind of words you use, you should always be mindful of using words that people might search for, right? Things that are relating to people. So, for example, right, you might want to look at if I use this very complex word versus using this simpler word that people might actually easily find. Yeah, you get that kind of thing. So that's where another place where SEO comes into play. So it's not just about the title, it's also about even your paragraphs, how you structure it, how you write it. Yeah. Making it sort of easily searchable using like relative words. And again, there are like tools that can help you with this. So you don't have to sit down and figure this out of your own. Now, some articles would ask you for tags. Tags are also like really good SEO, help with like SEO. So just using the right tags helps too. So when you're asked to like list the top five tags relating to your article, you want to use top five things that are relevant in that concern your article and at the same time are relevant to what users want to search. So um again, when it comes to like um writing for companies and organizations, yeah, you don't have to worry about SEO too much. That's why I don't really do so much emphasis on it. Like, you don't have to worry about SEO too much because companies have their own like SEO style and they sort of handle that for you. So you just have to focus on about um writing quality content, making sure that what you do is legit, it's real, it works. Someone reads your article and really benefits from it. And even some companies have like editors that still go over your article again, then edit it and also like change the SEO style. So the only time probably you might want to worry about it is if the company says you have to do all that yourself, which I have not personally come across. I'm not saying they are not, but I've not come across any company that says that I'll have to write SEO myself. Yeah. So you might, I'm not saying you might not. So yeah. But then it's not the main game. Especially now that things are changing. Yeah. So things are changing, and at the same time everyone has to be like that wise. So you can do things in it, but then it's not something you have to like have headache over at the same time. Also try to read people's article. Yeah, when you read people's article, you're not just reading to just get the knowledge. You're also reading to look at their style. Like how did this person write? What kind of language did this person use? You read an article, you really liked it. Look at the style. Look at the way the person writes. Look at the complexity of grammar. Did the person use bogus grammar? Did the person use simple, easy to understand words? Is the person sort of funny? You look at all these other things, yeah, and then from there you can be able to adapt that into your article too. You can also look at things that you might search for and type, that your person also used. So from there you can also learn. Again, practice makes perfect. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. Let me see. Do you have any more questions? Um, does anybody have any more questions? Okay, if there are no more questions, um, I think my final words would be that we've talked about a lot in the past two classes. I believe that I actually like compressed a lot of things to fit into those two classes. Okay, and you probably want to go over it again. I don't know why I keep insisting on go over it again. Go over it again. Understand what has been said. Because you figure out that when you actually start writing, for those of you that did the assignment, yeah, and I gave feedback, you'd see like little things that you probably didn't take note of, or maybe I didn't even see because I probably spent like 1 minute on each article. So not like I took forever. So, but then that 1 minute made a lot of impression on me, right? So you want to make sure that you don't miss like these important things in terms of capitalization, punctuation. I noticed that not everyone used like complex sentences, so I didn't really emphasize on that. So if probably per chance you need to use complex sentences, or maybe you're writing and then you just feel like cracking small jokes somewhere and then returning back, all those other kind of things that make your article lively and really interesting to read. So revise again punctuations, revise capitalizations, revise part of speech. How do you identify an adjective, an adverb? How do you use them? How do you use nouns? Right? When do you switch nouns for verbs? Right? Writing in the active tense. Um, yeah, active voice instead of writing in passive voice, except it is a um except it's a report. So if you're writing a report, that's the only time you can write in like passive voice. So even at that, you don't have to make it too passive. It's also good when you have like active voice. So your blog should be in active voice. Your blog should be third person, right? You're not saying hi. I am not saying we. You're saying you, right? You should do this, you should do that, you should do that. Like as if you're talking to somebody. Okay, you're not saying we. I mean, it's only the person that is reading it, not two of you. Okay, so that's why, yeah, that's why it's so important. And remember what I mentioned about accessibility, about making sure that you're writing with your reader in mind. You're not just writing, oh, I know the topic, finish. I don't care about whatever this person thinks. They should understand. Or you're an expert, you don't care whoever reads it, you should understand the jargon I write. No, right? You want to make sure your article is well formatted in terms of outline. And something I noticed that in almost everyone's article that I probably did not mention was that Outline should not be the first thing at at the start of the article. Just go and check like 5 articles. Hmm? Check articles on like dev.co, and check like how they sort of format the article. You will notice that the article should not the articles does not start with outline at the very beginning. You'd have like a paragraph of introduction. Then you say, okay, these are the things we'll be talking about in the article today. And those things will probably be the outline. They will not be outline title. Then you have those 5 things and another paragraph again to introduce, okay, this is how the structure of the article will be, and all and all and all. So please don't make that mistake of start the article, except for documentation. When you have documentation, you can have things like objective, or you can have things like outline, right? Depending on the guide or format you're using. Some documentations have like like a long list of outlines, that is a long things of list of things that they'll cover. Then by the left, yeah, by the left um you would see like, or each of those things highlighted as headers. So that is something you also want to look at. Yeah. Another thing I would like to say is about the images. Make sure that you have the right license to use any image. Don't use images you don't have license to. Please, I beg you. Okay? Don't use image you don't have rights to use. Don't use image you don't have license to use. Use images that are free to use. For example, you can check on splash.com, or splash.com just requires that you cite the author. Simple. It allows you to use images, but make sure you cite the author. Please do that. And the only other scenario is if you actually took the photo yourself. That one too, very good. And then if you actually created the image yourself, for example, like an illustration, those are the 3 cases that I can guarantee that you can use images without fight. Please don't use image that you don't have right to, or you're not sure. Please just avoid it. Especially you just Google image and use it. I don't think that's a good idea. Okay. What else do I think I need to mention? Um, just a sec. I'm trying to go through my notes again. Okay, then writing sample code. And I mentioned that there are various ways to share code. You can share code using GitHub Gist instead of just writing code like among the text. You can also like use different tools, make it look clean and neat and tush. Yeah, and then if perhaps you need to like embed any code, there is this markdown. Yeah, I think, let me see. Okay, your code is here. Yeah, so I sent it to the comments. You can use that to like embed a code block, especially if you're writing documentation on GitHub repo. Yeah, so you can use that to just demark your code block. And if you want to write like a single line of code, you can just use one of those ticks. I think they're called back ticks. I think so. Okay. Let me see. Are there any other questions before we end today's session? I'm trying to check the chat. Um, okay, I guess there are no more questions. So thank you everyone for uh, attending today's class. Today is the last class, and I hope that it has been really helpful for everyone, and you probably learned 1 or 2 things. So the next things for you to do now is to go and write, go and write, go and write, write articles, read other people's article, learn different styles. So you can even go further and look at, I think Google has this free style guide for writing. So look at Google style guide for writing. You can like take some things out of it and adapt that to your writing. Makes you better. So always strive for improvement, always strive to be better, because tomorrow you really don't know where or with who you're going to be working with. Okay. Yes, you can still reach out to me after the boot camp, but probably not on Slack, maybe on social media, because um yeah, my Slack might be probably swamped. So you can reach out to me on social media, either on LinkedIn or LinkedIn, yes, not on Twitter, because you can't send me a DM on Twitter. So you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Slack. Hopefully, I see the message soon. Okay. So yeah, thank you everyone. You can always access the classes. That's why I prefer them recorded. Like always go by it. Anytime you like. Okay, so special thanks to Fisayor for always keeping everyone up to date, and to the organizers of this program. I do appreciate your time. Thank you and have a wonderful night. Bye.